There are places on this earth, locations shrouded in darkness, where the veil between our world and the next is thin. For centuries, people have avoided venturing anywhere near these places, and for good reason. They are locations scarred by tragedy, by violence, by unspeakable pain. The energy from these events becomes imprinted on the very stones, the soil, the air itself. It doesn't just fade away with time, it lingers, waiting for someone sensitive enough to feel its cold, terrifying presence. I've dedicated my life to seeking out these places, to understanding the raw emotions trapped within their walls. These are not just campfire stories or local legends. They're among the most haunted places in the world, vortexes of paranormal activity, where countless individuals have reported encounters they cannot explain. We're talking about full-bodied apparitions, disembodied voices captured on digital recorders, objects moving on their own, and feelings of intense dread that can overwhelm even the most hardened skeptic. These are peculiar stories of strange happenings with dark and mystical pasts, places where history refuses to stay buried, where the dead still walk among the living, crying out for justice, for peace, or perhaps for something else. We have compiled a list of locations that are notorious hotspots for this kind of activity. Each one has a unique, chilling history, a story that explains why the spirits remain restless. From cursed forts and abandoned prisons to ancient castles steeped in centuries of bloodshed, we are about to take a journey into the heart of fear. This is not for the faint of heart, this is about confronting the unknown. Here are the top 15 most haunted places in the world. Our investigation begins in Scotland, at a place of royal intrigue and dark secrets, Glamis Castle. For over 600 years this castle has been the ancestral seat of the Earls of Strathmore, but its history is stained by a legend so disturbing it was whispered only in the highest circles. The legend of the monster of Glamis. It speaks of a hideously deformed heir, Thomas Bowes Lyon, born in the 19th century. To avoid shame, the family allegedly locked him away in a secret, bricked-up chamber for his entire life, his existence a closely guarded secret. Some say his tormented spirit still rattles the walls, forever a prisoner. The castle is a magnet for paranormal energy. It's not just the supposed monster. There's the Grey Lady, the ghost of Lady Janet Douglas, who was burned at the stake for witchcraft in 1537. Her spectral form is seen drifting through the clock tower and the family chapel, leaving a trail of profound sadness in the air. We're talking about a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a cold spot that defies explanation. Visitors and staff report hearing her footsteps, her sorrowful sighs echoing through the ancient stone corridors, a constant reminder of the brutal injustice she suffered right here on these grounds. And then there's the story of Earl Beardy, a wicked nobleman who, in a fit of rage, declared he would play cards with the devil himself. As the legend goes, the devil appeared, and they've been locked in a game for all eternity, their angry shouts and curses heard emanating from a hidden room. You can feel the residual anger, the dark energy pulsating from this part of the castle. Glamis isn't just a building, it's a stone tape recording of centuries of pain, secrecy and suffering, its spirits trapped in a loop of their own personal hell. We travel now to the arid landscape of Rajasthan, India, to a place so notoriously haunted that the government itself has forbidden entry after sunset. This is Bhangar Fort, a 17th century ghost city left in ruins. Locals will not go near it after dark, and the Archaeological Survey of India has posted signs explicitly warning against it. The story behind this fear is a powerful tale of obsession and black magic. It's said that a wizard named Singhiya fell desperately in love with the beautiful princess Ratnavati of Bhangar. He knew she would never have him, so he decided to take her by force, using a dark spell. Singhiya enchanted a bottle of perfume that the princess's maid was buying, a love potion designed to make her surrender to him, but the princess, who was skilled in the occult herself, saw through his dark deception. In a moment of defiance, she threw the bottle of enchanted oil onto a large boulder. The magic, now unleashed, caused the boulder to roll down the hill and crush the wizard. But as he lay dying, Singhiya used his final breath to lay a devastating curse upon the entire city of Bhangar, damning it to desolation and decreeing that no soul would ever be reborn there. Shortly after the wizard's death, a fierce battle erupted, and the entire population of Bhangar, including the princess, was annihilated. The thriving city was reduced to ruins overnight, its inhabitants trapped by the powerful curse. Today, visitors who dare to enter report an overwhelming feeling of anxiety and restlessness. Disembodied screams, chilling whispers, and the ghostly sound of women crying are common reports. People have claimed to be followed by unseen entities, their shadows dancing in the ruins. The curse of the wizard holds this place in an iron grip, a powerful residual haunting that keeps the spirits of Pangar forever trapped in their final moments of terror. High above the Oslofjord in Norway stands Akershus Fortress, a medieval stronghold with a history soaked in blood and despair. Built around the year 1300, its primary purpose was defense, but its thick stone walls soon found a more sinister purpose: a prison. For centuries, this fortress housed Norway's most hardened criminals, who endured conditions of unimaginable cruelty. Starvation, torture, and brutal isolation were standard practice. The raw energy of that suffering has seeped into the very foundation of this place, creating a vortex of negative paranormal activity that is palpable from the moment you step inside. The fortress's dark history didn't end in the medieval period. During World War II, the Nazis seized control of Akershus and used it as a prison and execution site. Many members of the Norwegian resistance were tortured and killed here, their final moments filled with defiance and agony. Their spirits are said to remain, their energy imprinted on the execution grounds. Visitors report hearing the chilling sound of marching footsteps when no one is there, cell doors slamming shut on their own, and the terrifying feeling of being pushed by unseen hands in the dark, narrow passages. These are not passive spirits, they are angry and tormented. One of the most terrifying entities reported here is the ghost of a demonic dog named Malkanesen, said to guard the fortress gates. Legend says that anyone who sees this spectral beast is doomed to die a horrible death within the year. Then there is the spirit of a woman with no facial features, known as the Mantelgeistin, who appears from the darkness, her presence bringing an intense wave of dread. Akershus Fortress is a place where the echoes of history are not just heard, they are felt. It is a location where the immense pain of the past has created an environment ripe for paranormal encounters. We now travel to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to a place that was designed to break the human spirit, the Eastern State Penitentiary. When it opened in 1829, it was actually the most expensive and famous prison in the world, pioneering a revolutionary system of confinement in solitude with labor. Inmates were kept in complete isolation, hooded whenever they left their cells, with the belief that this would force them to confront their sins and repent. But this system of solitary confinement meant for rehabilitation honestly became a form of psychological torture, driving many inmates to insanity. The intense anguish and madness that festered within these walls has left a permanent scar. The punishments here were just brutal. The mad chair, where inmates were strapped down so tightly that circulation was cut off, sometimes for days. The water bath, where prisoners were dunked in ice-cold water and then chained to a wall overnight during the winter. And the hole, a pitch-black underground cell with no light, no human contact, and barely any air. The sheer volume of human suffering that occurred here is staggering, and it has, supercharged the location with paranormal energy. It's no wonder that reports of strange happenings began even before the prison closed in 1971. Today, Eastern State is a ruin, a crumbling monument to misery, but it's far from empty. It's actually one of the most investigated locations in the world for paranormal activity. I've been there myself. The sound of disembodied footsteps echoing down the cell blocks is a common occurrence. A shadowy figure is frequently seen darting along the walls of cell block 12. The eerie sound of laughter is heard coming from cell block 4, attributed to the spirit of Al Capone, who served time here. The most chilling, however, are the agonized wails and whispers that emanate from the cells. The desperate cries of souls still serving their sentence long after death. In the United Arab Emirates, near Ras Al Khaimah, lies the abandoned coastal village of Jazirat Al Hamra. This was once a thriving pearl fishing community, its people living in houses made of coral and mud. But in the 1960s, following the discovery of oil and tribal disputes, the entire population of several thousand people picked up and left, seemingly overnight. They left their homes, their possessions, their entire lives behind, creating an eerie ghost town that has been slowly reclaimed by the desert sands. The sudden and complete abandonment has fueled local legends that the inhabitants didn't just leave, they were driven out. The local lore is not of human ghosts, but of something far older and more powerful: the jinn. In Islamic mythology, jinn are supernatural beings made of smokeless fire, who can be good, evil, or neutral. It is widely believed that Jazirat al-Hamra is a hotbed of jinn activity. For centuries the people lived alongside them, but something shifted, and the jinn are said to have claimed the village for themselves. Locals from neighboring communities refused to enter the town, especially after dark, fearing the wrath of these powerful entities. They tell stories of strange lights, unnerving noises, and apparitions. The hauntings are said to be concentrated around the old mosque and the crumbling houses. Visitors who ignore the warnings report hearing strange whispers carried on the wind and seeing fleeting apparitions in the desolate alleyways. The most common report is the feeling of being watched, an intense malevolent presence that follows you through the ruins. Handprints mysteriously appear on walls, and some have even reported being touched or grabbed by unseen forces. Jazirat al-Hamra is a place where the barrier between our world and the world of the jinn feels terrifyingly thin, a silent testament to a community lost to the supernatural. Perched atop Montpellier Hill, overlooking Dublin, are the sinister ruins of a hunting lodge known as the Hellfire Club. Built in 1725, this structure was deliberately constructed on top of a Neolithic passage tomb, an act of desecration that locals believe angered the ancient spirits and the devil himself. The lodge became the meeting place for a group of wealthy, debauched elites who called themselves the Hellfire Club. Here they engaged in orgies, blasphemous rituals, and dark, occult practices. They were said to mock religion, hold black masses, and make pacts with demonic entities. The most famous legend involves a stranger who sought shelter on a stormy night and joined the members in a game of cards. When one player dropped a card, he bent down to retrieve it and saw that the stranger had cloven hooves instead of feet. He had been playing cards with the devil. Upon being discovered, the devil vanished in a ball of fire, setting the lodge ablaze. Another chilling tale involves the club members setting a servant girl on fire for spilling a drink, her agonizing screams forever imprinted on the location. The air here is thick with a sense of sacrilege and violence. The desecration of the ancient cairn is key to the haunting. The stones from the passage tomb were used in the lodge's construction, and it's believed this act opened a portal to the other side. Visitors to the ruins report a heavy, oppressive atmosphere that instills a feeling of pure dread. The ghost of the burned girl is said to be seen, and the apparition of a massive black cat, a known demonic familiar, is considered a terrifying omen. Strange smells, disembodied screams, and satanic symbols appearing on the walls are all part of the Hellfire Club's dark legacy, a place where evil was invited in and decided to stay. In the heart of Cape Town, South Africa, stands the oldest colonial building in the country, the Castle of Good Hope. This pentagonal fortress, built by the Dutch East India Company back in the 17th century, has a history that's, honestly, just steeped in brutality and racial oppression. It served as a seat of government, a military garrison, and also a prison. Its dungeons, known as the Dark Hole, were, well, notorious. Prisoners were chained to the walls in total darkness, and when the tide came in, the cells would flood, slowly drowning the unfortunate souls trapped within. The sheer terror and desperation of those final moments have created a powerful residual haunting. One of the most prominent ghosts is that of Governor Peter Gijsbert van Noot. He was a cruel, unforgiving man who in the year 1729 sentenced 7 soldiers to death for desertion. One of the soldiers placed a curse on him, demanding he come to watch the execution. Van Noot refused. Later that day, the governor was found dead, slumped over his desk, an expression of terror frozen on his face. His angry, cursed spirit is now said to stalk the battlements, his footsteps heard echoing through the halls, a tormented soul who found no peace in death. The castle is honestly a hotbed of paranormal claims. The ghost of a lady in gray is frequently seen running through the castle, holding her face and crying hysterically. She reportedly stopped appearing after a woman's body was excavated during restorations. A large black dog is also known to pounce on unsuspecting visitors, only to vanish into thin air. The bell in the bell tower, which was walled up centuries ago after a guard hanged himself with the bell rope, is inexplicably heard ringing on its own. The Castle of Good Hope is a fortress of fear, where the victims of its violent past refuse to be forgotten. Now we journey to Singapore, to what is widely considered its most haunted location, the Old Changi Hospital. Originally built as a Royal Air Force hospital in the 1930s, its history took a dark turn during World War II. When the Japanese occupied Singapore, they converted the hospital into a prison camp and the headquarters for the dreaded Kempeitai, the Japanese secret police. This place became synonymous with torture. The rooms and halls that were once meant for healing were transformed into chambers of absolute horror, where prisoners of war and civilians were subjected to unspeakable acts of cruelty. The Kempeitai used this location to extract information through brutal means. The energy of that immense pain, fear, and suffering has been absorbed by the very structure of the building. After the war, it was converted back into a hospital, but patients and staff consistently reported paranormal phenomena. They spoke of shadowy figures in the hallways, strange noises, and bloodstains that would appear and disappear. The feeling of being watched was constant, and many felt an overwhelming sense of sadness and despair, particularly in the old mortuary and the abandoned operating theaters. Since its closure in 1997, the hospital has fallen into decay, but the paranormal activity has only intensified. Ghost hunters and urban explorers who trespass on the property report a barrage of terrifying experiences. The ghosts of Japanese soldiers are seen patrolling the corridors. The sounds of screaming and crying echo from the empty rooms. The spirits of the tortured are said to linger, including a woman who wanders the halls looking for her child, and the ghost of a man who stares out of a window in the old psychiatric ward. Old Changi Hospital is a monument to wartime atrocities, its spectral victims forever replaying their final agonizing moments. Just off the coast of Venice, Italy, lies a small island so deeply feared that it is strictly off-limits to the public. This is Poveglia, a place with a history so dark it has been called the Island of Ghosts and, honestly, the most haunted island on Earth. Its grim legacy began during the Roman era, when it was used to isolate plague victims, but its role as a dumping ground for the sick and dying was cemented during the Black Death. Tens of thousands of infected, dying Venetians were forcibly shipped to Poveglia and left to die in agony. Their bodies were burned in giant pyres, and the soil of the island is said to be composed of 50% human ash. The island's soil is literally a mixture of ash and bone. The sheer scale of death and suffering here is almost, well, incomprehensible, but the horror didn't end there. In 1922, a mental asylum was built on the island. The location itself seemed to prey on the mentally ill, who immediately began reporting, seeing the ghosts of the plague victims and hearing their tortured whispers. The isolation and the island's oppressive atmosphere likely drove many of the patients, already fragile, further into madness. The stories that came out of this asylum are the stuff of nightmares. The asylum was run by a sadistic doctor who was fascinated by the lobotomy, which he performed on his patients with crude tools like hammers and chisels. He conducted his twisted experiments in the bell tower, torturing his victims under the guise of medicine. Legend says the doctor himself was eventually driven mad by the ghosts of the island. He threw himself from the bell tower, and as he lay dying, a nurse claimed to see a ghostly mist rise from the ground and choke the life out of him. Today, fishermen refuse to go near the island, often pulling up human bones in their nets. The bell tower is said to still ring on its own, a final chilling toll from an island of pure torment. At the northwest base of Mount Fuji in Japan lies a place of serene natural beauty that, hides a profoundly disturbing secret. This is Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees. It's a dense, sprawling forest so thick with foliage that it's, honestly, really easy to get lost. And the volcanic rock soil is said to interfere with compasses. But, it's not the risk of getting lost that makes this forest so infamous. Aokigahara has earned a grim reputation as the suicide forest. For decades, it's been one of the world's most used suicide sites, with dozens of people traveling here each year to end their lives among the silent trees. The forest's association with death is ancient. It's long been linked in Japanese folklore to demons and ghosts. And back in the 19th century, it was a place where families would abandon the elderly and infirm to die during times of famine, a practice called ubasut. This long history of sorrow has, I'd say, really saturated the forest with a palpable sense of despair. The trees themselves are said to be imbued with the negative energy of centuries of suffering, their twisted roots and dense canopy trapping the souls of the dead within. Walking through the forest is an eerie experience. The trees block the wind, creating this kind of unnatural silence. Those who enter the forest, even just for a hike, report an overwhelming feeling of sadness. They speak of hearing disembodied whispers and, honestly, blood-curdling screams. The spirits of those who died here, known as yurei, are said to wander aimlessly, filled with regret and anger. They're believed to be malicious, trying to lure visitors off the paths and into the forest's depths so they too will become trapped forever. Volunteers who search the forest for bodies often leave behind ribbons and tape to mark their way, creating a bizarre, colorful trail through the gloom, a stark reminder of the human tragedy that defines this beautiful but terrifying place. We return to England, to one of the most famous and feared fortresses in the world, the Tower of London. For nearly 1,000 years, this imposing structure on the banks of the River Thames has been a royal palace, a treasury, an armory, and, most notoriously, a state prison and place of execution. Its walls have witnessed some of the most dramatic and bloody events in British history. Kings, queens, traitors, and heretics have been imprisoned and executed within its confines. The sheer concentration of violent death and political intrigue has made the Tower one of the most haunted places in all of Britain. Perhaps the most famous ghosts are those of the princes in the Tower. In 1483, the 12-year-old King Edward V and his younger brother Richard were imprisoned in the Tower by their uncle, the Duke of Gloucester, who became King Richard III. The boys vanished without a trace, presumed murdered. For centuries, the ghostly apparitions of two small boys in nightgowns have been seen clutching each other in fear in the bloody tower, their pitiful whimpers heard in the dead of night. In the 17th century, the skeletons of two children were discovered buried beneath a staircase, giving chilling credibility to the sightings. But they are far from alone. The most active and terrifying ghost is said to be that of Queen Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, who was beheaded on the Tower Green in 1536. Her headless apparition has been seen leading a ghostly procession of lords and ladies in the Tower Chapel Royal, and she is often spotted walking near the site of her execution, sometimes carrying her own severed head. Other specters include Sir Walter Raleigh, Lady Jane Grey, and the Countess of Salisbury, who was hacked to death by a clumsy executioner. The Tower of London is a living museum of history where the tormented souls of its most notable prisoners are still playing out their tragic final acts. Our journey now takes us down under, to Junee, New South Wales, and what is widely regarded as Australia's most haunted house, the Monte Cristo Homestead. This elegant Victorian manor, built in 1885 by the Crawley family, looks peaceful from the outside, but its history is honestly a catalogue of tragedy, accidents, and violent death. The sheer number of spirits said to linger here is staggering, each one tied to a specific horrific event that occurred on the property. The Crawley family themselves were plagued by misfortune, and it seems that their sorrow, and the sorrow of others who died here, has been permanently imprinted on the home. The catalogue of death is chilling. A young child was tragically dropped down a staircase. A maid, believed to be pregnant with Mr. Crawley's child, fell or was pushed from a balcony. A stable boy burned to death in his sleep. A mentally disabled man named Harold was chained up in the caretaker's cottage for 40 years, and his tormented spirit is still heard rattling his chains. These are not just stories, they are the dark events that have created a vortex of paranormal energy that current owners and visitors experience on a daily basis. The activity here is intense and, honestly, often physical. Visitors report feeling sudden drops in temperature, seeing strange, unexplained lights, and hearing disembodied voices. Many people become dizzy and nauseous upon entering the house. The ghost of Mrs. Crawley, who became a recluse after her husband's death, is often seen on the balcony, a stern, watchful presence. The spirits of the dead children are heard playing in the hallways. People claim to be touched, pushed, and have their names called by unseen entities. Monte Cristo Homestead is a place where the veil is thin, a house that seems to hold on to its tragic past, and the souls of those who suffered within it. In the heart of France's Loire Valley stands the tallest castle in the country, the magnificent Château de Brissac. With its 7 stories and over 200 rooms, it is a grand and opulent palace. But behind its beautiful facade lies a dark story of murder and a restless spirit known throughout France. The haunting of Brissac is tied to a 15th-century love triangle. The castle was then owned by Jacques de Brézé, a man known for his passion for hunting and, honestly, his neglect of his wife, Charlotte. Lonely and unhappy, Charlotte began a secret affair with one of her husband's huntsmen, Pierre de Lavergne. One fateful night, Jacques de Brézé was awoken by the sounds of his wife and her lover together in a nearby room. Consumed by a jealous rage, he burst into the chamber and, according to legend, murdered them both on the spot with his sword. He was so haunted by what he had done that he fled the castle soon after, never to return. But Charlotte's spirit, it seems, could not leave. She remains trapped within the castle walls, forever mourning her lost love and her violent death. She is known as La Dame Verte, or the Green Lady, named for the color of the dress she was wearing when she was killed. Her ghostly apparition is most frequently seen in the tower room of the chapel, but it's not her appearance that is most terrifying. Visitors and residents of the castle report that she has a horrifying, disfigured face, with gaping black holes where her eyes and nose should be. The most chilling phenomenon, however, is the sound of her wailing. Throughout the castle, especially in the early morning hours, her mournful cries and agonized moans echo through the grand halls, a terrifying reminder of the double murder that took place centuries ago. The Green Lady of Brissac is a spirit in eternal torment, her pain still palpable to all who enter her home. We head deep into the American South, to St. Francisville, Louisiana, to a place often called one of America's most haunted homes, the Myrtles Plantation. This antebellum plantation, with its grand verandas and moss-draped oaks, has a serene beauty that, honestly, belies a very dark and complex history of slavery, murder, and vengeance. While many of the legends surrounding the house have been embellished over time, the core of the haunting seems to stem from the immense suffering that took place here. The most famous and chilling story is that of a slave girl named Chloe. According to the legend, Chloe was a house slave who was forced into a relationship with her master, Clark Woodruff. Fearing she would be sent to the fields, she began eavesdropping on the family's private conversations. She was caught, and as punishment, one of her ears was cut off. From then on, she wore a green turban to hide the scar. Seeking to win back her master's favor, Chloe hatched a plan. She would bake a cake containing a small amount of poison from oleander leaves, just enough to make the family sick so she could nurse them back to health and be seen as a hero. Tragically, her plan went horribly wrong. The dose of poison was too strong, and Woodruff's wife, Sarah, and two of their daughters ate the cake and died in agony. The other slaves, fearing the master's wrath would fall upon all of them, dragged Chloe from the house and hanged her from a nearby tree. Today, Chloe's spirit is said to be the most active on the plantation. She is seen wandering the property, wearing her green turban, her face a mask of sorrow and regret. A famous photograph taken at the plantation seems to show her ghostly form standing between two buildings, a chilling piece of potential evidence. But she's not alone. At least 12 different spirits are said to haunt the Myrtles, making it a true vortex of paranormal unrest. For our final location, we return to where we began, Scotland. But this time, we're heading to its capital and the imposing fortress that dominates its skyline, Edinburgh Castle. This ancient stronghold, perched atop an extinct volcano, has a history stretching back to the Iron Age. It has been a royal residence, a military garrison, and a prison, and has been at the center of countless historical conflicts and sieges. The cobblestone streets and dark dungeons of this castle have witnessed centuries of bloodshed, torture, and death, making it one of the most haunted places in all of Europe. The list of specters reported here is extensive. There's the headless drummer boy, whose appearance is said to be a bad omen, predicting an attack on the castle. His lonely drumming is sometimes heard when the castle is about to be besieged, a phantom warning from the past. Then, there's the ghost of a piper who was sent to explore the secret tunnels beneath the Royal Mile that lead to the castle. He was told to play his bagpipes so those above could track his progress. About halfway down the mile, the piping suddenly stopped. The piper was never seen again, but his music is still heard echoing from beneath the streets, a lost soul still wandering the dark tunnels. In 2001, one of the largest scientific paranormal investigations in history took place at Edinburgh Castle, involving over 200 volunteers. A significant number of them reported paranormal experiences in known haunted hotspots, including sudden drops in temperature, the feeling of being touched, and seeing shadowy figures. The dungeons where French and American prisoners of war were held in appalling conditions are particularly active. The spirit of a man known only as Mr. Boots is heard with his heavy footsteps, and a ghostly dog is often seen near the castle's dog cemetery. Edinburgh Castle is not just a historical monument, it is a city of the dead, teeming with the spirits of its violent past. From the cursed ruins of India to the tortured dungeons of Scotland, we've journeyed through locations where history is not a thing of the past. It's a living, breathing, and terrifying presence. These 15 places are more than just brick and mortar, they are containers of intense human emotion, pain, fear, anger, and sorrow. The spirits that linger here are a testament to the fact that some events are so powerful, so traumatic, that they leave an indelible mark on our world, an echo that refuses to fade. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the sheer volume of personal testimony from these locations is impossible to ignore. Our world is full of mysteries, and the question of what happens after we die is the greatest mystery of all. These haunted places offer us a chilling glimpse into that unknown, a terrifying suggestion that the end of life may not be the end of our story. The investigation into the paranormal is an ongoing quest for answers, a mission to connect with those on the other side and understand their message. We are constantly adding more people to the Top 5's production team to bring you all the best content, exploring the darkest corners of our world to find the truth. The journey doesn't end here. There are countless other locations, other stories, other spirits waiting to be discovered. If you want to join us as we continue to peel back the veil and confront the darkness, there's only one thing to do. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on and hit the like button. Let us know in the comments which of these places you'd be brave enough to visit. Until next time, stay safe and don't look behind you.